Joining me now are two members of the Parliamentary Press Gallery. Stephanie Levitz is a national political reporter with the Toronto Star, and Ian Bailey is a parliamentary reporter for the Globe and Mail. First of all, both of you, welcome.
Hi,
thank you.
Good to see you.
Let's start with something. First of all, we were talking earlier in the show about the pressure that the Trudeau government's coming under to remove these vaccine mandates for travellers. The government has announced something today, Friday. It is suspending random testing of vaccinated travellers until July 1st, and then all testing is going to be moved off-site, out of the airports. Any reactions to that? Thoughts on that, Stephanie?
So, I mean, this was a decision that was taken almost in lockstep with some changes, but the way the United States was handling testing for COVID for inbound travelers into that country.
Okay.
So it's sort of nice to see the two countries moving in lockstep, because there's been a lot of pressure from the travel industry on both sides of the border to do things to make the flow of travel swifter and a lot easier for travelers this summer. Everyone needs that boost of tourism energy into their bottom lines, while of course recognizing that COVID, are we moving into this sort of endemic phase of COVID where it is just going to be ever present, and constant surveillance is daunting, I guess, for the industry, for the airports, speeding up some of these bottlenecks. So it's certainly a bit of a political win, Martin, for the Conservatives, and they were the main opposition party really pushing for changes at the border. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what it does to COVID rates in Canada. I mean, isn't that always the argument here the government has tried to advance? They're going to follow the science.
Okay.
So we'll see where the science leads us.
And we'll see also, obviously, the big decision about vaccination mandates in terms of vaccinated travelers. That decision doesn't get made until July 1st when the current requirement expires. Let's look at the Conservative leadership race. Both of you have been following it day by day, blow by blow. 600,000 members, at least, we've been told by the party. Party says it won't even have the actual tally of vetted numbers and members until the end of July. And it says it won't be giving results about which camps got how many members. We've already just heard from Leslyn Lewis. She says that she has evidence that supporters some of her supporters are being claimed by Pierre Poilievre. Both of you, what are you watching for as this process continues to unfold? Let's start with you, Ian.
Well, waiting to see how the party has said it will proceed to sort of measure these members, to sort of validate these members, these membership claims, and waiting to see how that plays out in the weeks ahead, waiting to see how many members there really are. The party has said the numbers will go down, but even if they go down by 100,000 or whatever they go down, the metrics here look very promising for the Poilievre campaign. Also waiting to see what the campaigns frankly do in the coming months. This isn't over yet. It's not a case where the vote is next week or 2 weeks from now or even 3 or 4 weeks from now. There's still a long way to go in this race, so waiting to see how the camps try to make their claims, to try and build support going forward, and to see what, I guess, the perceived front-runner, Mr. Poilievre, does in terms of policy and in terms of making these numbers work for him, and maybe winning this thing down the road. Okay,
I want to get back to that in terms of actually translating these numbers into votes come September. Stephanie, what are you watching as this vetting process goes on?
In your lead in there, Martin, you used the phrase blow by blow. And hasn't this leadership race really been about blow after blow after blow that candidates have been trying to land on each other? And so one thing I'm watching for is to what extent that continues. Do they continue, some of the front runners, their negative and, sometimes quite vicious attacks on each other? Some will argue that that's part of the membership sales process. You've got to motivate people to buy a membership, and you do that with a negative attack ad strategy. And some will say that needs to continue because you also need to motivate and get these people to the polls. I mean, let's remember, in the 2020 leadership race for the party had about 270,000 members that were signed up for that contest. That was a record number at the time, but only, voter turnout was just over half of that. And so 600,000 may seem like a big number, but at the end of the day, two things matter. One, how many people actually show up to vote, and two, where they vote, because the party doesn't just use a one-member, one-vote system. It's this complicated points thing where every riding is actually treated equal. So it's all fine and well if candidate X signed up 70,000 members, let's say, in one singular riding. At the end of the day, those are only worth 100 points. And so what candidates need to win is the majority of points. And so some of these candidates will be doing a very targeted riding by riding, get out the vote strategy. And it'll be interesting to watch that play out to the extent that we see it play out publicly.
Okay, Ian, I'll ask you this, and I'll come back to you on this, Stephanie. Obviously, 600,000 members, and it would seem to be, we'll see what the actual final tally is at the end of July. 600,000 members is a lot, and as you mentioned, Stephanie, it's more than double of what they had in the last leadership race 2 years ago when they chose Erin O'Toole. How impressive is this? Is this an unsurmountable lead for Pierre Poilievre? Because his people claim they have 311,000 of those members. And should the Liberals be worried?
Well, it's probably, well, it's certainly a significant number. As Stephanie pointed out, obviously the point system, is relevant here. It's certainly a daunting number. It's an impressive metric, as I said earlier, for Mr. Poilievre. As for the Liberals, I mean, the next election, assuming the NDP, the agreement they have with the NDP holds, is a number of years away. So, the Liberals should probably be watching this to see how it plays out, how the rest of the leadership race plays out, and assuming who the winner is, and assuming it's Mr. Poilievre or whoever it is, how they sort of come into the leadership role and where they take the party. Maybe a bit too early for the Liberals to sort of ring the alarm bell, but it's certainly something they should be watching, but waiting to see how it ends. Perhaps before getting too alarmed, I would guess.
Okay.
Figuring out how to get alarmed.
Okay, Stephanie, about the numbers, and then I also want to ask about Patrick Brown, who says he will not run for a seat as MP if Monsieur Poilievre wins the race. Two different stories there.
Okay, I'll pick up on the numbers first. I mean, one interesting thing about the numbers, let's remember that membership cards for the Conservative Party cost about $15 if you buy a one-year membership.
Yeah.
If you just do some simple math, $15 times 600,000 members, that's $9 million in the pockets of the federal Conservative Party. So if I'm the Liberal Party, I'm looking at that and I'm wondering about my decision to, end paid membership a number of years ago, because that's a lot of money. I also think it's a fascinating tally when you think about expanding the base of the party. And I would hope that whoever the new leader is, and even the current leadership of the party, are thinking about how to keep these members engaged for the next 3 months. I mean, never mind the outcome of the race and after. These are, 600,000 people who are now card-carrying members of the Conservative Party. And does the party not owe them some kind of duty? Should they hold another debate, for example, in this leadership race? Should there be some ways to engage them and lay the groundwork now for the inevitable post-leadership race drop-off? Because a number of these members would have signed up specifically to vote for a particular candidate. And here's a nice segue to Patrick Brown. Patrick Brown has staked his campaign really on expanding the base of the party into a pool that he believes has been almost insulted by the party in the past. And he's trying to reclaim those votes and reclaim that support. If he's managed to recruit a large share of voters from ethnically diverse communities into the party, will they stay if Patrick Brown leaves? And now he's sort of made it clear that he will leave. If he doesn't win, he's out. And so what does that mean for his membership pool? Because that would be a huge detriment, I think, to the party, Martin. There is a chance to reach some new party members and start developing and being thoughtful about policy from different points of view, and maybe take it in that direction. Okay, a last point to you briefly. Ian, we're running out of time, but your thoughts on Patrick Brown's ultimatum saying that he will not run for MP if he doesn't win the leadership?
Well, he would be running, I guess, a way down the road. I agree with what Stephanie was saying, and it's going to be interesting to see if Mr. Poilievre ends up winning this thing, if he can keep these front runners together. I don't know if Mr. Charest plans to run if he doesn't win. We'll see what he has to say about it. But that may be a challenge for Mr. Poilievre. He's been very combative on the leadership race, but hasn't shown many indications of bringing these folks together into a team that would be working after September once this thing is resolved. Okay, well, both of you, we will look forward to future discussions on guess what topic. Thanks, both of you, for weighing in. Have a great weekend.
Take good care. Thanks.